Now, if you could welcome with me one of our clients, Chelsea DePietro.
Hi. There's a lot of you here, and I'm not really good at this, so bear with me. But I've been attending ABBA on and off now for about 11 years. I've gone through and overcome a lot of trials and tribulations while being there with them. I'm in recovery. I've lost children. I've had children. Just a lot of things that they've been with throughout and helped me through. They've never been judgmental, or I've never felt like I had to hide anything going there, and they've just always counseled me. So I'm very thankful for that. On the other hand, I've learned a lot of things over the years there. We have these little videos we watch and learn just how to be a better parent, or things that we could change or just be better. So that's been very helpful. And we also earn points every week that we go there. So being a single mother, sometimes things are financially really rough for me. So being able to go and have some assistance with diapers or clothing has also been another thing that's been very helpful for me. And I think one of the biggest things is it brings me back to God. I've been very busy in my everyday life, and I tend to stray away from Him and not focus where I should all the time. And when I go there, they bring me back to that. We end in prayer, and it just is overall really good for my relationship with Him. And I guess the last thing that I would say is they've just been a very positive impact in my life. My daughter loves there every time we go. It's ABBA, ABBA, ABBA. She's almost 2, and then I have a 9-week-old son. So I look at them as family, I guess I would say, after this many years, and just going and opening up to these women and counseling. It's hard to not get attached, so I can't say it's just a program anymore. I would have to say that they're part of my family. Everybody always tells me it takes a tribe when you're raising children, even as 2-parent household. So let alone a single one is very hard. But they are definitely a big part of my tribe, and I'm very grateful for them, and I will continue to go as long as I can. So thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. And I have to say to Rick that I tried to give him a hard copy so he could see. You're getting to that age, darling. But he forgot to say who I am, which is no biggie. But I'm the director, and and the CEO, and so you know what they say. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, yeah, that's okay. It's no biggie. Thank you. Welcome to our 20th annual fundraising banquet. Love them both. Wow, what a crazy time that we are in, isn't it? But we know that God's on the throne, and He is. He's been guiding us and protecting us, So, again, thanks for being here tonight, for celebrating with us and partnering with us in this life-saving work. Nothing we accomplish could happen without your help and your support and your prayers, especially your prayers. Since the last banquet a year ago, your support has allowed us to minister to many women and men and their families, and we welcomed 35 babies to life over the course of 400 visits. We also are able to give the abstinence message, which is really important. We had over 76 students involved in that. And just imagine what we can do over the next year as God leads us and calls us, and hence the reason why you're here this evening. For those of you here this evening who are new to ABBA, I'd like to just kind of give you a little summary of who we are and what we're doing. We are a nonprofit. Are you good? Can you hear me? I'm not too loud. I feel like I'm so loud, so no, it's good. All right, so we're a nonprofit certified medical pregnancy center in the state. We provide all our services free to women and men who find themselves in an unplanned pregnancy. Our mission is to protect the sanctity of human life, especially life in the womb, to affirm women and men in their dignity as mothers and fathers, and to promote a culture of life in our community. And our vision is that lives can be transformed through the love of Christ as we speak words of truth through our deeds of love. We have 9 different programs at ABBA, and at the core of what we do is our Options Counseling medical program. This includes a free obstetrical ultrasound. It's ultrasound imaging to confirm a viable pregnancy, which expands that woman's vision of the personhood of her child in her womb. We know statistics say that 80 to 90% of women who see their baby in the womb will choose life, and for ABBA, it's over 90%. So, our medical team and client advocate, they provide accurate information in a non-judgmental yet life-affirming environment. This allows women in crises to explore all her options without pressure. And I'd like to acknowledge our medical team this evening and our client advocates who serve God here so faithfully with compassion. And we are introducing this tonight, Dr. Kathleen Carlson. She is our new OBGYN medical director, and we're just so pleased to have her with us tonight. Thank you, doctor. So just a little side note, keep this in prayer, if you will. You know the battles that are happening right now in the legislation and stuff, but one battle in particular is the abortion pill. The abortion pill is available sight unseen, unfortunately, any place without medical supervision. And we're told that, women think it's a quick fix. And we're told that 50% of abortions that are happening now, over 50%, are from the pill. And this is challenging because our ultrasounds, we've upped the ultrasound appointments to 5.5 weeks, and our medical staff is doing a great job detecting that heartbeat, but still is very, very challenging. So just keep that in prayer. That's a really tough one, and just pray that will become. I'm not sure if it's ever going to be illegal, but another program that we have. And I'm sorry, that was just a little side note. For those moms who decide to parent their babies, we have a parenting learn and earn program whereby the moms will attend classes, healthy pregnancy, labor and delivery, parenting classes, financial classes, and they earn points. And they're able to shop our boutique to get things that they need, not only diapers, but high chairs and strollers and things. I mean, the program is great, and that's what you guys provide for us, for our girls, actually. We also offer for a young woman a program called TAP, and that's Teen Accountability and Parenting Program. That is especially designed to meet their unique needs because they're in school, and we really want to meet them where they're at. We also have a mom check program. This is for our single moms who just need a little extra support, and we meet on a monthly basis, and we'll connect her with another mom and just kind of give her support, moral support. For those women who have chosen abortion, and hence the reason why I'm up here and God's called me, and they regret their abortion, we have a program called Forgiven and Set Free. It is an abortion. It's done in a sensitive one-on-one or group format. So if you've had an abortion, and chances are it's 1 in 3 women who are in a group like this have had an abortion, just know that there is forgiveness at the cross and that you can be restored. Just the difference is that we have a baby that's in heaven. And for girls and women seeking to find healthy relationships and attain their personal goals and dreams, ABBA offers our sexual health program, both at our center and in various communities. We also offer STI, sexually transmitted infections testing and treatment, just 2, we're limited. And we know that in today's distortion of sexuality, a young person is more likely to end up with a sexually transmitted disease than to get pregnant. ABBA also offers our Treasured Time program, and this supports those parents facing the difficult journey resulting from an adverse prenatal diagnosis that their baby will not survive. This program walks alongside these courageous parents who chose not to abort their living preborn baby, but rather to treasure the limited time that God has given them. And last, but certainly not least, ABBA has Bible studies. Those seeking to fill the void in their hearts that only a life with Christ can fill. Our spiritual exploration program helps to introduce or to reconnect them, our clients, with the Lord Jesus, and to see them experience the results of what a life pleasing to God can bring. And since opening in 1999, we have had the opportunity to present the gospel over 8,400 times. So we're constantly talking about the Lord and presenting. You know, it has been a crazy time in the last 4 years, and especially in the last year in the state of Maine. But we know that God is on the move, and He's doing remarkable things, and He's bigger than all of this, and we know that. I need a little encouraging every now and then from people saying, God's got it, you know. But I know He does, and He's given me the faith. But the Word says that our struggle isn't against flesh and blood, but it's against rulers. It's against authorities. It's against the power in this dark world and the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And we have to remember that. But our God is greater. There is a clear darkness in our world, but as a believer, we need to stand firm so that we can recognize the lies that are twisting the hearts and the minds of people. 43% of women who are having abortions are part of a church. 43%. And I know firsthand the destruction of abortion, and I was a part of a church. I grew up in the church. It truly is a deep darkness that no woman or man or child should ever have to experience. The sad thing is, my baby, along with 63 million aborted babies and more, are not with us today. But the good news is these babies are with the Lord. You know, and when King David lost his baby, and he had been praying about it and fasting and crying out to God not to take his baby, he said, you know, when he realized that the baby had passed, he got up, and his servant said, what is going on? Because he's cleaning and everything. He said, I cannot bring my baby down to me, but someday I will go to my baby. And this gives us hope that we will again be reunited. So, as I said, as you're aware, the state of Maine is considering a bill that will allow abortion basically for any reason up to the time of birth. And a few weeks ago, 2,200 pro-life people showed up in Augusta to give, a 1-minute testimony at the end is what they were given. The testimonies went on all throughout the night, and the people persevered. I'd like to read a testimony that was given at 1:30 in the morning, if you'll indulge me. We have a lot of troopers here that stayed up all night and just persevered through this. On a sunny day in April of 2005, I drove to Portland Planned Parenthood and ended an unplanned pregnancy. Since that day, I have remembered and regretted my choice. I used to be hopeful, vibrant young woman who loved life and had dreams. That day changed it all. I stopped dreaming. I was depressed. Life no longer had hope or meaning. I took my child's life, and there was nothing I could do to bring him back. The darkness and the guilt were overwhelming, and the regret and shame were debilitating. Who told me this was going to fix it all? Who told me it was my choice? They lied. Nothing felt fixed, and I surely wasn't empowered by my choice. I was never offered any other choice. Planned Parenthood didn't ask if I considered parenting or adoption. They just prescribed me 2 pills that would take care of my issue. I wanted to turn back time. I had never been depressed until now. I was 9 weeks pregnant when I aborted, and my mental state from the physical and emotional trauma was unstable at best. This new bill would allow a baby that would survive outside of the womb to be killed. What will the mental and physical impact of this be on these women and men in a society which prides itself on diversity and exclusiveness? We should never view a marginalized life as a death sentence. Since my biggest mistake, I have had counseling, prayer, and many in-depth conversations with post-abortive women to help me heal and forgive myself. As a matter of fact, it's part of ABBA's program, the Forgiven and Set Free. I now work for a pregnancy center that helps other women heal from their past abortions. My observation of the post-abortive women I've helped in depression, anxiety, and suicide rates are at an all-time high and a real concern. A provocative new study showed women who had an abortion were 34% more likely to develop anxiety disorder, 37% more likely to experience depression, and 110% more likely to abuse alcohol, 155% more likely to commit suicide, and 220% more likely to use marijuana. Please hear me. We currently do not have the resources to support the mental health crisis. Please take into consideration the support necessary for the woman and men who will be physically traumatized, grief-filled, and shameful of their late-term abortion, and oppose this new bill. What a magnificent story. How can we be silent in the face of this evil? And also there is, and I'm just about done here, but there is also an anti-pregnancy center bill threatening to be passed. It basically is trying to take away pregnancy centers' free speech. They're calling us fake clinics and deceptive advertising. They're claiming that we're falsely leading women to believe that we do abortions, which is furthest from the truth. As a matter of fact, this would basically have the Attorney General monitoring our every move and whatever we say and do and fining the center. And as you know, we don't take, this is what we do to get our monies to continue on. But the Attorney General would be on us. This is the same person who, when asked from the Judiciary Committee, because he gave his speech for the bill, what if the child in the womb at 8 months is healthy and the woman is healthy? And this is what he said, and I quote, "This has nothing to do with a child." So please tell me that this, that they're for life or they're for a woman's health. It's a challenging time, to say the least, and we have had protests, we've had online threats, we've had political opposition, and I would just ask, would you just pray about this? Just pray and do what you're doing. There's many people here who you're here because of it, and I appreciate that. Just keep us in prayer. And thank you so much for giving tonight. We can't do it. We're a nonprofit ministry. We don't take any government monies. Why would we, right? And we depend on the local support of people like you and churches. So you're going to have an opportunity tonight to give at the end. Give beyond what you just ask the Lord what He would have you to give. Thank you so much for listening to me and being a part of this night's events. God is good, and we couldn't do what we do without you. Enjoy the rest of the night, and God bless you.
Jenny Pratt, everyone. We might be looking for a new board president in the coming year. So I also have the pleasure tonight to introduce our keynote speaker. Hopefully I do a better job with that. He is an American lawyer and the president of the National Institute of Family and Life Advocates, NIFLA for short, a public interest law firm founded in 1993. He served as the executive director of the Christian Action Council, now known as CareNet, from 1987 to 1992, establishing legal guidelines and programs for training board members and directors of pregnancy resource centers. As the CEO of NIFLA, he also developed and implemented legal guidelines for pregnancy resource centers, enabling them to convert their operations into licensed medical clinics and provide services such as ultrasound. He has been listed in Who's Who in American Law and is an accomplished author. A graduate of the University of Washington School of Law in Seattle, he practiced law in the Seattle area for over 10 years. During that time, he represented pro-life organizations and pregnancy resource centers, also founding and leading 4 centers in the area. He's a member of the Bar Associations for the United States Supreme Court, the state of Virginia, and the state of Washington. In addition, he has filed several friend of the court briefs and significant cases for the pro-life movement in the United States Supreme Court. He also sits on the board of directors for the National Religious Pro-Life Coalition. Please join me in welcoming Thomas Glessner.
Good evening. Prior to last night, over the years that I've been involved on a national level, I had set foot in 49 states. Last night, when I landed, number 50 is on the list now. So. Now, what you just saw was a video clip from a Supreme Court case, NIFLA, our organization, National Institute of Family and Life Advocates versus Becerra. I'll talk about that in a minute. The state of California in 2015 had passed a law that mandated that pro-life pregnancy centers post in their waiting areas a sign that advised the women coming into their centers of 2 things. 1, you have a right to state-funded abortion in California. And 2, did you know, here's an 800 number you can call now to get your abortion procedure started. Mandated pro-life pregnancy centers. Now, for years, the abortion industry, in attacking the work of pro-life centers, we were beating them. I'll give you a little more history later on, but we're beating them at their game. They were looking for a template to succeed with that would pass across the rest of the nation, and this was it. This was it. This law was passed, signed into law. We immediately filed suit in federal district court in San Diego, the Ninth Circuit. We filed suit on behalf of our membership. NIFLA has 1,700 members right now, but we have 155 in California. So we filed suit on behalf of our 155 centers in California, and we lost. So we filed an appeal to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And you get in the federal court, you have 2 shots at it. It's initially referred to a 3-judge panel, and we lost 2-1 there. So we then had our second shot, asked the full court to review it, and we lost there too. We have only one other option here, and the statistics are not very promising. The Supreme Court gets 8,000 petitions a year and only hears 100 of them at most. So mathematically, we don't have a really good shot here. However, I actually felt we're going, and I kept encouraging people, like, to feel like we've got to get this case before the high court because the issues are so incredibly important. Tucker Carlson, in that interview, he asked me, he said, could the government mandate that Hindu temples promote hamburgers? Yeah, kind of humorous, except that my response was, well, could the government mandate that Alcoholics Anonymous promote, and with a sign in their waiting areas telling their clients of where the local liquor store is? The answer to that question is yes, if we lose. That's how serious this one was. Well, so you saw that was the day we argued it, and in June of 2018, in a 5-4 decision, we came out victorious. The Cato Institute in Washington, D.C., a free speech think tank, said this was the most significant free speech case of our lifetime. It not only protected the pregnancy centers, it protected Christian counselors and pastors and priests and counseling with people. There was a bill in California that was ready to pass. It was going to be signed into law. It was going to criminalize what they call conversion counseling, which would be a pastor or a counselor or a priest counseling someone in the homosexual lifestyle, counseling them to try to pull them out of that. They wanted to make that a crime. Of course, it came from California. They had the votes to do it. They had the governor's commitment to sign it. But the bill was pulled by a legislator who was a notorious homosexual activist, and when asked why he pulled it, he said, because NIFLA versus Becerra, we're going to get sued and lose. So that's how big that case was. That case also came up this last year in a case concerning the city of Philadelphia that canceled a contract with Catholic Social Services, the contract they'd had for 100 years in providing foster care for needy children. Philadelphia just canceled it because they weren't going to license same-sex couples in that program, and they canceled it. Well, they sued. Catholic Social Services sued and won 9-0, and the Supreme Court, in their decision, listed NIFLA versus Becerra as the main reason and main precedent why we won. So it was a big case. The thing about that case was it started a trend out of the court, the high court, that ended last June in the case of Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Clinic. And it was a trend, we're winning. And so when the Dobbs decision came down, I immediately thought of the words from one of the great heroes of the last century, one of my historical heroes, Sir Winston Churchill. Before America got into the war, England was being pummeled by the Nazis. London was being bombed. The Nazis had invaded many islands around the big British Isle. And it didn't look good. America wasn't in the war yet. But finally, Britain gets a victory in North Africa. It's called the Battle of Egypt. Now, it wasn't a major, if you look at the history of World War II, the war would have gone the way it did anyway. This really was not very significant, but it was a victory. And so Churchill addresses the nation and he says this. Listen to these words. He says, "This is not the end. This is not the beginning of the end. It is perhaps the end of the beginning." Later on, America gets into the war, and we launched that big invasion on Normandy Beach in 1944. Thousands and thousands of young Americans, young Brits, young French men, Allied soldiers were slaughtered on that beach. Nazis had the high ground, and they were just gunning them down. They were getting mowed down like dominoes falling. But we kept at it, and we established a beachhead. We established a beachhead on Normandy Beach. Now, we didn't win the war. It was the beginning, wasn't the end, wasn't the beginning of the end. It was the end of the beginning. We didn't win the war, but we established a beachhead. Now, Dobbs' decision has put us on the beach. We're on the beach right now. What are we going to do about it? You know, are you going to play a little touch football, lay out and get sun tanned, and maybe a little beach volleyball? Oh, let's put on some Beach Boy music and take out surfboards and wax them up and go do a little surfing. Is that what we're going to do on the beach? I guarantee if we stay on the beach, we're going to get slaughtered. And right now, in the political realm, it's not looking very good for us. Talk about that more in a minute. But we're on the beach. It's time to get off the beach. Now, my wife and I in 1981, I'm dating myself. I was really young then. I was about 15, got married young. And we were deeply, deeply moved on the abortion issue. And we decided we had to do something. So we founded the first, what was then called Crisis Pregnancy Center in the Northwest in Seattle. It's called the Crisis Pregnancy Center of King County. Immediately after we opened, and it was a stunner to me, but the media attacked us. They had op-eds. They had news articles. These people are deceptive. They lie. They're tricking women to come in, and then they're trying to talk them out of abortion. And I was stunned. I mean, we had like a $30,000 budget, and most everybody were volunteers, and the executive director was working 60 hours a week and getting paid the equivalent of $2 an hour, probably. And we were being made to look like these horrible, horrible people, demonized. It was unbelievable. Well, those attacks happened periodically when I was in Seattle. We continued to grow. We opened up 4 other centers, and we stood our ground. And in 1987, I was hired. I left my law practice at that time. I was a young lawyer, and I left my law practice in 1987 to come back to Washington, D.C., and be the executive director or CEO of the Christian Action Council, which is now known as CareNet. And when I got to D.C., I remember almost immediately seeing things come across my desk. The same attacks we saw in Seattle were happening all over the country. Tampa, Florida, Topeka, Kansas, you name it, it was there. It was the same press releases, word for word, that we saw in Seattle, just names changed. And I began to think, I think there's been kind of a national conspiracy at the top here. This is a national campaign. Sure enough, a friend of mine, Dr. Marvin Olasky, who was a professor of journalism at University of Texas, did some research and uncovered that, yes, indeed, in 1982, in the New York offices of Planned Parenthood, this plot was hatched to slander, smear, destroy, close down the work of what was then a young movement of what we call crisis pregnancy centers at that time. And the line of attack, which continues to this day, the line of attack is that these centers are deceptive. They fraudulently advertise. They illegally practice medicine. Oh, and you know what, Jenny? You know the worst thing about you is, really? And all they'd have to do is attend this banquet to know that we can confirm this complaint about you. Your Christian ministries. Now, what they'll say is, oh, well, don't get us wrong. You know, we think everybody should go to the church they want. I go to church myself, you know, but when you use your fundamentalist, ultra-conservative, lying religion to impose your morality on someone else, so all they want to do is exercise this wonderful constitutional right given to them, shame on you. You need to be exposed and you need to be closed down. And that's a line of attack they have taken since 1982, and it still goes on. Because of these attacks, we saw various actions from attorneys general around the country, doing investigations, subpoenaing pregnancy centers to produce documents, pushing legislation to virtually close them down if these legislative initiatives are passed. And guess what? We're winning them all. We're winning them all. We started developing political coalitions. And in my home state of Washington, which is, I mean, God bless you here in Maine. I know how tough it is here in Maine. You know why I know how tough it is? Because it was just as tough or tougher in the state of Washington. You know, and I know exactly the attacks. I know exactly the makeup of your legislature. We faced that in the state of Washington. And in the state of Washington, we had 3 attempts there within 3 years on a bill that, if passed, would virtually close the centers down. The governor said she will sign the bill once it's passed. We beat it every time. We beat it every time. We beat an attempt in Maryland, another very liberal state, anti-life state. We beat that. In my now home state of Virginia, I've lived in Virginia since '87, we beat an attempt there. And so we're winning. But when California passes their bill, or the bill surfaces, and before it's passed, I didn't feel very good about it. I felt like I don't think we're going to be able to stop this one. And indeed, we weren't. So we took it to the Supreme Court. Now, we have the challenges because of Dobbs. Dobbs has changed the landscape. Dobbs has made everything different. What immediately surfaced out of Dobbs were this group calling themselves Jane's Revenge. Over 100 vandalisms, acts of vandalism, some fire bombings of pro-life pregnancy centers and churches, mostly Catholic churches. And the FBI, you know, those guys are so easy to work with. They're so, you know, they're just so objective. The Rochester Center was firebombed. The FBI is supposedly on top of it, but then there's been nothing in that one. Portland Center, Portland, Oregon, has been firebombed 3 times. Nothing. And our Attorney General, Merrick Garland, testified this last month. They said, well, the reason this is these people, they attack at night with black masks, and, you know, we can't get good pictures of them, so we really don't know who's doing it. That's about the best effort we can get from the FBI on this. So we're under a real battle here. Jane's Revenge, who is Jane's Revenge? I don't know. They're just people who hate what you do. And they come in the dark hours of the night, wee hours of the morning, with black masks and spray cans and maybe a firebomb, and that's what they do. And that's the things we're facing. In 1992, when I came to Washington, D.C., I was a young lawyer, and I was so excited to be in the nation's capital and to work in coalitions, pro-life coalitions, working with other pro-life lawyers. And one of our passions and dreams was to get Roe versus Wade reversed. So we worked to get justices on the Supreme Court, and we worked to get cases moving up the system. And finally, in 1992, the case is there. It's called Planned Parenthood versus Casey. Planned Parenthood versus Casey. We were confident we're going to win this case and Roe's going to go, 1992. I was really excited. My wife and I lived in Manassas, Virginia at that time, about an hour and a half outside the District of Columbia. So the morning, the day that the case came down, the decision was coming down, we got up at 2 in the morning to drive to the court. I wanted to be first in line because I am a member of the Supreme Court Bar, and I wanted to be first in line. They let the lawyers in first. I wanted to be the first in line to go be first up the steps, first into the courtroom, sit on the front row of the court, look up at Chief Justice Rehnquist, and hear the words that Roe is gone. I wanted to experience that because I wanted to tell my grandchildren I was there when it happened. And all that did come to play, almost. I was the first in line. I was first up the steps of the court. I was first into the courtroom. I was 20 feet from the Chief Justice. One thing went wrong. We lost 5-4. It was the biggest disappointment in my entire life. The previous year, I published my first book entitled Achieving an Abortion-Free America. And that book was premised, in the political realm anyway, it was premised on the strong belief at that time that President George H.W. Bush was going to get reelected in 1992, and he'd have a couple more Supreme Court appointments to make, and that we would definitely have a Supreme Court that would be able to allow us to toss Roe. Well, we know what happened there. And then Casey comes down. I was pretty devastated. So I took my book entitled Achieving an Abortion-Free America, and I put it on my bookshelf next to my volume of Grimm's Fairy Tales, and never really wanted to look at it again. We know what happened. Clinton gets elected. He gets 2 more appointments, and things don't look real good for us at that time. In the meantime, I changed direction a little bit. I had contemplated just kind of stepping down, and I've done my thing 5 years, and it's 5 years more than most people do, and I can go back and live a real life and get a real job and, practice law back in my firm in Seattle. Well, 30 years I'm still here, and I can't get into the details of how NIFLA came about, but it is a miracle. But we started NIFLA, instead of me going back, I went forward. We started NIFLA in 1993 to be a legal organization to help centers face these attacks that were constantly coming at them. So we supply legal audits, board trainings. I do banquet speaking, which I love to do. We have several online courses now that help train medical professionals in limited obstetric ultrasound. We have policies and procedures. We have legal policies and procedures on operations. We have a medical malpractice insurance program. We have a regular insurance program. So we've built this whole organization, and 1,700 members now, of which 1,400 are licensed medical clinics. Now, why medical clinics? I love telling this story. I began to notice, so NIFLA starts, and we're doing all these things, but I began to notice a very bad trend in the network of what we then call crisis pregnancy centers. Those centers might be, like on an event like this tonight, reporting a big increase in clientele they saw over the last year. Well, that's good, except that when they look at the clientele and who are coming into the center, they're seeing very, very few truly abortion-minded women. That is, women who are really thinking seriously about abortion. Most of them are passing out a lot of diapers and baby clothes and baby accessories and cribs and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Good stuff. I'm not mocking that. That's good stuff to do. But those women aren't really thinking seriously about abortion. And we're missing these women who are going to the abortion clinics and going to Planned Parenthood. Why is that? Well, the attacks on pregnancy centers by Planned Parenthood did not have an impact in closing centers down. The network continued to grow. I think it had a really big impact on the ability to reach out to those women at risk. So there are now videos on the internet. That we didn't have the internet back then, at least initially. But this story of the centers being fake and phony and fraudulent and don't go there because they're lying to you, that was getting around. And Planned Parenthood was putting ads in the papers. That was getting around. And so what was happening were these women at risk for abortion, those are women who are really seriously vulnerable to abortion, get that information and they don't go into a pregnancy center. So you see pregnancy centers passing out a lot of material goods, but seeing very few women changing their mind on abortion because they're not seeing very few women who are thinking about abortion. I did notice, however, that in the state of California, this is about 1996, those centers that had converted their operations into licensed medical clinics, in California you got to be licensed directly as a clinic, not here in Maine. You don't have to get a state license here in Maine, but in California, the state has to inspect you. The centers that converted their counseling center into licensed medical clinics, we're seeing a reversal of the trend I just described to you. Number one, they were seeing more women who were vulnerable to abortion coming in. And why would that be? Why would that be? What's a magic button about medical that would change that dynamic? Well, it's pretty simple. If you are medical, operating in this state, you don't have to get a state license. You do have to have a doctor's license as a medical director with a license to supervise, which we have a wonderful new medical director here now. And it's her license that's giving the legal cover for this. But as a medical clinic, guess what you can do? Ultrasound. Ultrasound is a medical procedure. No, it's not like a video game that you plug in, put the probe on mommy's tummy, and up pops the baby on the screen. It is a medical procedure that requires a lot of skill and training in order to do it right. And there's a lot of legal liability issues connected with it, too, if you do it wrong, okay? But I began to notice that the California centers that are medical, that they were seeing a change in their numbers. They're seeing more women come in to see them who were thinking about abortion. And the second thing is, and this makes so much sense to all of us in this room, is they were seeing dramatic jump in the numbers of those women choosing life. Dramatic jump. Why? We all know why. Every woman in this audience tonight has something that every man doesn't have, including Bruce Jenner. I'm sorry, Caitlyn Jenner. I had to throw that in there. It's called maternal DNA. You women got that from the moment you were conceived in your mother's womb, maternal DNA. So when that young mother, first of all, how it works is she thinks she's pregnant. She'll come in and she'll take a urine test. If it reads positive, we can't tell her she's pregnant because a urine test isn't 100% accurate. 95% maybe, but not 100%. So you're never going to tell a woman she's pregnant unless you know for sure. But from that positive urine test, then we offer her an ultrasound to confirm the pregnancy. All right? So far, so good. Explain what the ultrasound is, how it operates, the procedure, all of that. Then, when she's on the table, the probe is used. You look up at the screen and you see, what do you see? What does this young mother see? She sees, in the early stages anyway, this tiny little thing here. I don't know if you can see my hand here. This tiny little thing in the middle of the screen, and it's just beeping away. And she might say, well, what is that bleeping thing on the screen? Well, that's a baby's heartbeat. Heartbeat? Heartbeat? Yeah, we can measure a baby's heartbeat. It begins about 21 days after conception. Your baby has a nice, strong heartbeat. We're going to measure it now. Here's what that does. This young woman who has maternal DNA inside her, the statistic was right. 80 to 90% of those mothers choose life. Without that service, the number is about 20 to 25% will choose life at a non-medical center. This has made all the difference in the world. That's why medical. And what has been the result of all that? Well, again, NIFLA has 1,700 members, 1,400 are medical. We have trained 6,000 nurses, primarily nurses, some other healthcare professionals such as physicians, assistants, nurse practitioners, but primarily nurses, in what is called limited obstetric ultrasound. They can do that under their license. They must do it under the supervision of a medical director with a license to practice medicine, which we have here. And we've trained them in limited obstetric ultrasound. What's been the results? Well, in 1992, the year before NIFLA started, the estimated number of annual abortions was about 1.6 million. The last statistics, which are 4 years old, that estimate is about 850,000. So a significant reduction over that time period in the number of surgical abortions. Okay, but what now about chemical abortion? I want to reference this real briefly. This is not like taking an aspirin or a Tylenol for a headache and it goes away, and it's being sold like that. Do you understand? I'll say that again. Chemical abortion is not like taking an aspirin to get rid of a headache. The procedures are 2 pills. First pill is called mifepristone. The woman takes a mifepristone, it loosens the uterine lining and basically suffocates and starves the baby in the uterus. She then, 2 days later, takes the misoprostol that creates uterine contractions, and then she will go and miscarry. Okay, now get this picture in your mind here. And you heard the testimony tonight, the testimony that was read. This woman, thinking she's getting rid of a headache, is going to go into her bathroom in 2 or 3 days, and it's going to be very violent contractions, and she's going to hold in her hand her baby that was killed. That's right. The abortion clinic actually is out of the picture. We're creating a situation where I think within 10 years, the old brick and mortar standing abortion clinic is going to be a thing of the past, unless we can stop this. And the abortion doctor is out of the picture now. Who's the abortionist? The mom, she took the pills. She's the one who did it. Do we not realize the mental health crisis we are creating? If you go to a website called chemicalabortion.com, there's 500% increase in complications from women who take the abortion pill and then they end up in the emergency room. And now they can get it, they can order it online, they can get it in the mail, no doctor supervision, no doctor prescription on it whatsoever. We have a problem here. We have a deep, deep problem. And it's a crisis. We got to get off the beach. We got to get off the beach. Post-Dobbs. My book, Achieving an Abortion-Free America, I put up on the shelf. I've taken it down now. Because, well, see, the premise of the book was, you have to have a post-Roe America before we have a abortion-free America. And with Roe in there, you're not going to have abortion-free America. We now have a post-Roe America. We celebrate that. We're happy about that. Lives are being saved. But we're in a tremendous battle. We got to get off the beach. Got to get off the beach. So I've outlined in my mind, I want to share with you, the three elements of what abortion-free America looks like. We're not going to have abortion-free America until all three are in place. You get one in place, the other two are not, it's not abortion-free. Two in place, the other one's not, we're not abortion-free. You got to get all three in place. So let me go over those real quickly. Number one, we've got to have legal protection for the unborn and their mothers. Now, I know the state I'm in right now. And I know, and I think I understand Maine politics pretty well, even though I've never been here before, because it's so much like where I grew up, the state of Washington. And being in Washington, D.C., I know who Rufus King is. Is that his name? Rufus King? Angus. All right, I know who he is. That's how much respect I have for him, right? Angus, Rufus. I like Rufus better. That seems a little more lovable, isn't it? Good old Rufus. Hey, Rufus, way to go. How's it going, guy? Angus, was he a farmer or something? A steak farmer? Huh? Oh, no, I love it. I know all about Susan Collins, and Susan Collins, frankly, in my opinion, is the best we can get here, and thank God she's there because she kind of provides a deciding vote on things now because of her Republican affiliation. So let's not get too down on Susan Collins. There's a lot we don't like, but let's not get too down on her. I understand the politics here, but here's my philosophy now on politics. And I'm a political animal, okay? I was a political science major and an economics major, and I went to law school, and I got involved in campaigns and all of that. So I am a political animal, but what I'm about to say may not make some of you very happy, but I've come to this conclusion. You see, I am an old football player. My three sons coached high school football. The Friday night lights life of my wife and I was wonderful, going to Friday night football games. And you understand football strategy, it's just a lot of fun. Those of you who understand football strategy, okay, fourth quarter, your team is behind 6 points. You got the ball on your own 40-yard line, 5 minutes to go in the game. You're driving the ball. You've got all 3 timeouts left. It would be the height of foolishness and strategy if your coach told your quarterback to go back and throw the Hail Mary 4 straight times hoping to score the winning touchdown. Hail Mary happens successful 1 in several hundred. You just lose the game by that. You got to look at where are we on the field? How are we doing? What's the opponent doing? And you got to be realistic in your expectations, but keep driving the ball. Okay? Dobbs was a nice 25-yard run up the middle into enemy territory. But we didn't score the touchdown. We still got to keep driving the ball. So me personally, political strategy is I'm going to support any bill. It may be imperfect. It may have exceptions that I don't like. But if it's going to save lives and it's the best we can do after a hearty debate, I will support it and say, keep driving the ball. It gives us a first down. We've got to keep driving, though. We're going to keep at it. That's my philosophy now on political strategy. I don't know how that plays out here in Maine. I think the politics here in Maine are such that anybody thinks you're going to ban abortion in this state in the near future, probably not right. Probably not right. We got to keep driving the ball. You got to have some savvy. Got to understand how to work coalitions and all of that. Okay. But if we were to ban abortion in all 50 states, including Maine, through the political system, we would not have an abortion-free America. So realistically, of the 3 points I want to make, probably the political point, which we get defined as, everybody sees this as a political movement, that in my mind is the least important of the three. It really is. We got to do it, and we got to keep moving, but we've got other things we got to do that are going to make us successful. So what's the second point? Second point is we have got to continue, to develop compelling alternative to abortion services so that every woman in every community who's considering abortion, the services are so compelling and so available, they're just going to come to us first and she's going to choose life. Now, you have a wonderful pregnancy center here. Wonderful pregnancy center. They're a blessing to your community. Okay? And we're here not only to honor them, we're here to make them stronger and grow them. Now, let me give you an example. I was in Las Vegas last year at a pro-life conference. By the way, there are fantastic Christians in Las Vegas. Unbelievable. And this conference was absolutely exciting, and people were excited. And pro-life people, wow, I couldn't believe it. The Las Vegas Center that brought me out, if I were to give a list of the 10 top pregnancy centers in the nation that I knew about, they'd definitely be up there. They might even be number one. I don't know. They have an 11,000 square foot medical facility. They got 3 doctors on staff. They got 3 ultrasound rooms. They're doing STI testing and treatment. They're doing abortion pill reversal, which I'll talk about in a minute. They're doing all these things that a pregnancy center wants to do, and they're seeing 800 to 900 women a month. Except that Las Vegas has 7 abortion clinics going 24/7, seeing 200, 300, 400 women a week. So no matter how good, and they are good, no matter how developed they are, they got to get better. We're not there. We got to have other services in Las Vegas. We've just got to overwhelm that. We got to get off the beach. Okay? Same here for Portland, Maine. Your center is wonderful. Jenny's a wonderful leader. I had dinner with her and Stephen last night. Great people, and met some of you tonight as we prayed. You're all wonderful people, fantastic people. You got to get better. And the only way you get better is this group of people take this seriously. You here tonight are the ones that are going to make this better. It takes some green, that stuff in your wallet. It takes a little bit of that to grow this. What are some of the services that have to improve? Well, I'm going to talk about one. I'll talk about some others too, but APR, abortion pill reversal. We talked about what that abortion pill does. 2 pills. So what do you do if the woman takes the first pill and she regrets it? Janie, I haven't talked to you about this. I don't know if you've gotten any calls like this. But she calls up in a panic. I don't want this abortion. I took the first pill. What do I do? You got to act fast. You got to act fast. There's a procedure now that has been successful in 70% of the recorded cases called APR, abortion pill reversal. It's got to be done before the second pill is taken. And essentially, it's not all that, I'm not a doctor, but as I understand it, it's not all that unique. It's an injection of progesterone into the mother. That was a drug that's been used decades in women who are in the process of miscarrying and done to stop the miscarriage. So it's really nothing new, but it's working. It's called abortion pill reversal. Now with the advent of the abortion pill, I suggest that this is something that's going to be very big in the future, everywhere, including Portland, Maine. That's a program that's got to be developed. STI testing and treatment. Incredible services available. I heard Jenny say there are two you test for, basically. You got to get stronger. There's lots of STIs out there. And what we learn is, so with an STI testing and treatment program, the woman who comes in, and she may not be pregnant, but she's offered the test. And sadly, I mean, we just got a reality here. Most of these women have multiple partners. And, they're at risk. So we run the test, and she gets a result. She's treated with respect. She's treated with love. And what happens if she comes up pregnant again? A lot of them do, or think she's pregnant. She's back to you first. And she brings her friends back. And hopefully she brings her partner in. And it's a way to reach out to them. Got to get them in the door. We got a great message, but if they don't get in the door, they're not going to hear the message. So STI testing and treatment, abortion pill reversal, ultrasound confirmation of pregnancy. These are all dynamic programs that our pregnancy centers have to be involved in and expand and grow. Okay. Number 3, this one is tough for me to say. If you're going to be mad at me tonight, it'll be here. If you're going to sit there in a huff and say, I'm going to let Jenny know, don't let that guy come back again. Number 3 is we've got to create and build a culture of life in every community. You can have legal protection. You can have compelling services. But if we don't have a culture of life supporting it in every segment of your society and your culture here in Portland, Maine, you're not going to see an abortion-free Portland. And frankly, I think as Portland goes, probably the state of Maine goes. So what am I really talking about that? I'm talking about churches. Now, Jenny gave you a statistic. I got to find where that statistic is. She said 43% of, is that CareNet statistic? I think it, yeah, okay. It's one of them, okay. Well, I saw another poll out there that said 70% of women having abortions claim some affiliation or connection with the Christian church. And maybe there's a difference, the 43% of women are actually active in church, which is shocking. And maybe the 70% it would include women who, well, they were baptized as a baby and went to Bible school and all that, but they really aren't involved. I don't know exactly. The point is this. Women in churches are having abortions. Now, how can we take out the speck of dust from our neighbor's eye when there's such a log in our own? I want to ask all of you, either tonight or the next day in your devotions, read Isaiah chapter 1 in light of what I'm about to say. In Isaiah chapter 1, first of all, understand who that's written to. That's written to the children of Israel, the people of God. God's chosen. This is not a chapter or a book written to non-believers and pagans. It's written to God's people. So who's that today? That's the church. Chapter 1 is written to the church, number 1. And then you get in about 10 verses down, and all of a sudden, God is saying to his people, go ahead, have your religious festivals. Go ahead, raise up your hands in holy prayer. Go ahead, celebrate your Sabbaths and all. I will not hear you. And you read that and you go, wow. In fact, some versions say they are a stench in my nostrils. And then he tells the children of Israel and us why. Why aren't you hearing our prayers, God? He says, because your hands shed innocent blood. What were the children of Israel doing They were praising God and worshiping and having their holy convocations and sacrificing their children to the pagan god Moloch. That's what they were doing. Now, later on in that chapter, and this hit me really, it's a very famous verse, and I finally convinced, we've taken it all out of context over the years. It can work, but it's not the context of the verse. I think you'll recognize it. It says, "Come, let us reason together, says the Lord. Though your sins be as scarlet, I will make them white as snow. Though they be crimson, I will make them as white as a lamb's wool." Okay, now remember who that's written to. That is not written to non-believers. And we've used that verse in evangelistic efforts to bring non-believers to Christ. It works fine, it's a beautiful thought, but that's not what the verse meant when it was written. If you look at that verse carefully, though your sins be as scarlet, I will make them white as snow. Wait a minute. What's the opposite of white? Black. How come the verse doesn't read, though your sins be as black as midnight, I will make them white as snow? That's because crimson and scarlet is a color of blood. And perhaps a good paraphrase of that verse might be, though your sins are bloody red from the murder of your children, I will make them white as snow. This is to the church. It's not to non-believers. Years ago, I was asked to speak at a church in Baltimore, Maryland. We lived in Manassas, Virginia, about a 3-hour drive, and I was speak on their Sanctity of Life Sunday service. It's about a 3-hour drive. So I got up real early Sunday morning, got in my car, drove up there, got to the steps of the church at about 7:30, and standing on the steps was their pro-life committee. They welcomed me. They took me out to breakfast. And we talked about what the day was like. I came back. I taught an adult Sunday school class. The classroom was filled elbow to elbow with people because they'd promoted it pretty well. Then spoke on the Sunday morning service. The congregation was packed and very enthusiastic, very welcoming of things I said. Then the pastor and his wife took me out to lunch afterwards with the pro-life committee, and they were just all over me. What can we do? We got to do more. We got to do more. And I'm thinking, if every church in America was like this, we would have no abortions. So on my way back to the car, I asked the person walking me back, I said, so what happened in your church? Why are they like this? Why are they so engaged? What happened to bring this fire in the belly? And he said, well, about 4 years ago, the pastor's wife got up in front of the congregation and confessed that prior to being married, she'd had 4 abortions. And I said, well, that was pretty brave of her. What happened? Well, the floodgates burst open. Women began coming forward confessing they'd had abortions. Men who had been involved in abortion began to confess. And all of a sudden, this church got on fire with the Spirit of the Lord. You know, there's a passage in the Scripture that says, confess your sins one to another so that you might be healed. We don't do that, really, do we? And we know why we don't do that, because we don't want to be the topic of the next perching conversation. We know exactly why we don't do that. But this church was different. And this church was on fire, and it wasn't that they were just pro-life. They were all of that, but they had a prison ministry and a ministry to the poor. And, you know, they were clothing the naked. They were visiting them in prison. They were feeding the hungry. They were defending the fatherless. They were doing everything that Jesus said we're to do as an identity badge of his followers. That was what that church was all about. If we had even half the churches in this nation on fire like that, we would be getting off the beach and we'd be marching towards Berlin. We'd be marching towards Berlin. That's a challenge. So I don't want to step on too many feet here. It's just that, well, let me say something kind of shocking to you. I'm going to say it, and then I'm going to stop and mid. I'm going to look at all your shocked faces, and then I'm going to explain myself, okay? I warned Jenny I was going to do this. So pastors, churches, individuals, I don't want you to support this ministry. I don't want you to support ABBA Care. Don't worry, Jenny, I'm getting to the right point. I want you to adopt it. Now, what's the difference? You have a family next to you, good kid Johnny's in high school, comes over, sells you some raffle tickets to support his volleyball team. You go to his band concert on the invitation of his parents. When Johnny graduates from high school, you go to a party, you give him a graduation gift. You're supporting Johnny. Good for you. That's nice. But if his parents are killed in an automobile accident and you go to court and adopt Johnny, you know the level and depth of your help and support for Johnny is going to be so much deeper. I want you churches to adopt this center. That means this center is every bit a part of your ministry as your youth ministry, as your music ministry, as your missions committee. I want you to adopt this center. That's one thing churches can do. And that's only going to happen when churches get on fire and you say, you realize how important this is. One other point, and then we're going to get to the plea. I think it's amazing. You know, I'm only like 35 now, so I can't even remember sometimes where I put my car keys. It says, honey, where's my car keys? They're in your hand, dear. Oh, yeah. Okay. But God has allowed me to have some real memories of my childhood that have just remained there, and I want to share one with you. It's just surfaced recently, but it fits in with what I want to say. So I was raised in a minister's home. We lived in a small town for a few years in the state of Washington, and our house was right next to the church. And my father we called his study, it's an office, and he had all his books in his desk, and they're placed for people to sit when he was counseling, and he'd prepare his sermons there and all. But that office was off limits to us kids. Yeah, we were not to go into that office unless he was there and had us come in, okay? Well, I got curious as a little 8-year-old, what's so special about that room? So I didn't think my dad was around, so I went into the office, and I looked around. He had some really interesting books. I noticed a lot of C.S. Lewis books, and I've become a great C.S. Lewis reader over the years. Screw Tape Letters. I pulled out Screw Tape Letters, and that's one of my favorites too. Read it, by the way, if you've never read it. But then I found this Life magazine, and on the front cover of it was a picture of victims of the Holocaust. And it was a shocking picture to me as an 8-year-old. It had this big pit with all these dead bodies in it and people who had been tortured. And then I started thumbing through the magazine, and I saw the crematoriums and the stacks of bodies, and I was so horrified. My father had obviously kept it away. He did not want his children to be exposed to that. Good for him. But I found it. And so I'm there, and guess who walks in? My dad. Uh-oh, I'm in big trouble. No, he saw what I was reading, and he was concerned. So he sat down to try to talk with me as much as he could about it. And I remember trying to grasp all of this and understand this. 8-year-old, you want to play baseball, and you want to have your friends, and you want to trade your baseball cards, and you want to ride to the park and play with your dog, and all that stuff. You don't need to be burdened by this evil in the world yet, and we all want to protect our children as much as we can from that. But he explained as much as he could, and then he said, I looked at him and I said, so why, Daddy? Why? I'd never seen my father cry before until that moment. And his eyes filled with tears, and he looked at me and he said, that is why Jesus had to die. And that ended the conversation. And I walked out, and it's taken me years to grasp what the meaning of all that was. So when my wife and I began to get involved in this issue, and we'd see similar images of aborted babies and hear the horror stories and all, and the question comes up, why? Well, that's why Jesus had to die. Here's the point. Do you not realize what this is all about? You may be here tonight because you really like the fact that this center passes out diapers and baby clothes and supplies for women who are in need. That's really nice, and you really like that, and you want to support it. And I say thank you. That is nice. It's so much deeper than that. You may be here because you've been involved in abortion, and it's so traumatizing, and you want to help women not suffer that. And you're here for them because your experience has helped them, and that's good. But it's so much deeper than that. You may be here because just the thought of killing a baby is so abhorrent and so outlandish and outrageous, you got to do something about it. And that's true, but it's so much deeper than that. You see, this is why Jesus had to die. The verse we all have all known since we were children, for God so loved the world. We know the rest of it. That word world there, does that mean, so God so loved the beautiful mountains and trees and forests and animal kingdom that he created, that he gave his only begotten son? Is that what it means? I don't think so. I think a very good paraphrase of that would mean, for God so loved humanity made in his own image. He gave his only begotten son. You see, the bottom line on this issue is God. And a denial of what we stand for is a denial of God and that we're made in his image. Everything we believe as believers is on the line here. Everything. It's not just passing out nice stuff to women who need it. It's not that at all, even though that's important, and I'm not mocking that. As fellow believers, everything we believe is on the line. Everything. Do you believe that? I hope I can plant a seed here. Because right now, if I was an evangelist, I'd have the choir start singing Just As I Am, and we won't do that. But it is time for the challenge. Some of you tonight now, your table hosts have an envelope, and in that envelope are cards for you to complete and fill out. If you're like my wife and me, when we go to an event like this, we're always usually running a little late, so we're running in the car, and honey, did you get the checkbook? Go back, get the checkbook. And then while we're driving, we talk about how much we're going to give tonight. And we come up with a number in our head. If you did that tonight, I know some of you did, maybe not all of you, but some of you did, please erase that number that's in your head and at least double it. Okay? But here's the bottom line. We're going to make this real easy for you. We want to raise $60,000 tonight. There are estimated about 150 giving units here. A giving unit is either a husband and wife or a single person. So we figure 150 giving units here tonight. To raise $60,000 tonight, every giving unit must commit to a gift of $400. Now, that can be a one-time gift. You can write a check tonight. You can use a credit card tonight. You can put it in 12 monthly payments. You can do it in quarterly payments, however you want. But every giving unit needs to commit to $400, okay? And we raise it. However, I know there are some of you in this room tonight who can give a whole lot more. Now, I don't know who you are, but God does, and you do. And for those of you I'm mentioning specifically in that, when you fill out your card, just remember that the word thousand is spelled Thousand. Just remember that. And final thing, I want to talk to pastors in churches. Is this ministry on your missions budget? Do you have some type of fund that you can commit to them tonight? I think maybe churches can go over that $400 mark, probably. Make them a monthly a gift every month as part of your ministry. We want you churches to adopt them. It's nice that you're here. Thank you that you're here. We want you to go deeper than that. We want you to adopt this ministry. 60,000, I don't see any reason why we can't do that at all. You know what $400 really is? It's $1.10 a day. Now, for a married couple, that's 55 cents a day for each of you. How many of you want to look at me and honestly say you can't afford to give up 55 cents a day so that we can raise this money tonight? I don't even need to ask. It's all doable. You can all do it, and we can go above that. So, Jenny, what do you want to do? We want to give them some time to fill out that card, play some music, and then at the end, when we're all done, someone will come up and say a prayer, I assume. Okay. At the end, give your card back to your table hosts. Table host, put it in your envelope. I've been told that in the past some of you walked home with the envelope. Don't do that. Don't do that. Put it in your envelope. And what do they do with that, Jenny? Is there someone going to collect the envelope? Okay, President Rick's going to be getting it. So there we go. All right, okay. Let's do it, and let's just respond here, and let's really get behind this ministry. We can have this goal and this image of an abortion-free Maine, but it starts with an abortion-free Portland. And that's where we are here tonight. Okay, thank you.